The parachute cord I get from Joann's or Michael's. You can probably pick it up at your craft store or online. You don't have to use this, but this is the type of cord I use. This is some other cord that I picked up just at the local hardware store that was a little cheaper. But you can use any kind or thickness of paracord for your project. You also want a ring. For a demonstration today, I have a red one just because it stands out against the colors, but usually about 2.5 inches is perfect. You could go as small as 2, definitely could go as big as 3. It's up to you. But however big your ring is will determine how much paracord you need to wrap around the edges. You can also use leather strips, which I think is just absolutely beautiful. And it's not as durable as paracord in terms of battle, but in terms of for court and that kind of thing, this is just can be really, really beautiful. And I have been wearing this out on the field, so it's not as flat as I like it to be, but I think leather can be really beautiful, and it's easy to pick up leather dyes. Now, leather's a lot more expensive than paracord to use, but I think it turned out really nicely. So now that you have your materials, you're going to take 2 very long strands. If you need 100 feet of paracord for your project, these pieces should be 200 feet long, if you can, plus about 50 inches because you need that to wrap around the ring. All right. If you can't find a piece of paracord that's 200 feet long, that's okay. Don't worry about that, or 100 feet, however long you need it. Don't worry about that. You can easily fuse these together by heating this in a fire, heating this in the fire, and going tss. I can show you. Tss. Unlike leather or some other material, you can actually fuse 2 ends of paracord together. So you want to take that white stuff at the end, snip off any excess white stuff. Have a wet paper towel nearby. Turn on your heat source. Heat them up just for a couple of seconds. Push them together. And they will fuse. If you want to cool them down quickly, use a wet paper towel. And then they're nice and stuck. Very durable. You can test it. I'd recommend doing this first with a couple of scraps before you do it on your belt. But that's an easy way to add a new piece of paracord to an existing one. As this and this over here are one long continuous piece of paracord. If you need 50 feet of paracord for your belt, you want to make sure that this black strand is at least 100 feet. So once you have this, I'm going to tie off this end. I'll probably tighten it later on, oops, just so I can work with the other side without this bothering me too much. I'm just going to tie a little knot, overhand knot over there so it doesn't bother me a whole lot. So you're going to take each strand, find the midpoint, this is a midpoint of this one, and loop it over the top. You could tie them off at the top, just like this. But that's pretty darn ugly. So what you're going to do instead is just loop them over the top. So the midpoint of each strand of paracord is right up there. You want to make sure that you maintain this black, blue, black, or sort of every other color pattern while creating triads of 3 that have black, blue, black, or, you know, outside, inside, outside. This is a little bit tricky, but really not that bad. You're going to tie knots at the top. You'll notice I flip these because I find it's a little bit easier to tie knots if you have 1 strand that's coming over the top and 2 coming under, or 2 over and 1 under, either way. You're just going to tie a regular overhand knot around these. Any kind of knot is fine, frankly. You just want to make sure that it's tight. Slip knot will work. You're going to tighten that up at the top. So check, make sure we've continued our pattern, black, blue, black at the top, and we have our first triad down here. I'm going to set that aside over there. Now I have black, but I need another blue and another black. So I'm going to take another long strand, and remember, each piece of paracord is going to be 2 strands in your pattern. Okay? So I need a blue one, I need a black one. All right, we'll check the pattern here. This looks nice. Oops. There we go. That looks nice. We'll save these over here for later. In fact, I think I'm going to flip this one over, flip that blue one over, so it lays nicely right in the center of my next triad. So I've got these 3. I'm going to tie them together. I take the one underneath here and just do a little overhand knot or underhand knot. I'm not sure what these are called. I'm just gonna do a knot of some kind. Tighten it up. Oh, it looks like my pattern fell apart here, so I'm going to take this down just for now so I can make sure I do this right over here. Alrighty. Tighten it up. And don't worry too much. The first time I did this, I really cared that they kind of fell in exactly the right place. Don't worry about that so much, because as soon as you do your first braid, these are going to stay put. So if you tie your knot and it turns out that there's, you know, 2 blacks together or 2 of your outside colors and a blue, don't worry so much about that. Just kind of place them where they're supposed to be and know that after your first braid, they'll fall into place. All right, so we've got 2 triads now. Woo! And I need blue over here, so I am gonna flip that over the top. Remember, this blue strand here is the same as this one. It was just doubled over the top. I need another black one. Oh, my thing over here has fallen apart. One of the challenges with paracord is that it is slippery. Oh, it's stretchy, can cause all kinds of problems. Okay, so I need a black strand. Another doubled up black strand, not a problem. Got one right here. And I'll tie that in a knot. A nice little overhand knot. Doo, doo, doo. And keeping track, we are continuing our pattern. Black, blue, black, blue, black. All right. There's our 3rd triad. Now we need another blue one. I add this right here. And I need another black one. All right, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Our 6th is going to be from this string over here. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to untie this. You'll notice some of this got screwed up while we were playing around with the knots. So I'm going to go back, I'm going to tighten these up, really squish them together next to my knots down here, okay? So that they're nice and solid before we do our final piece. All right, and our final triad is right here. So this string is from here, and these two, of course, are from our very first triad on that side. I tie my overhand knot. There we go. And look at that. We've got, you might have to tighten these up a little bit as you go through. Just make sure everything is nice and cozy before you start your project. Once you're satisfied with that, it's time to start weaving. When you hold a strand, do your best, even if it's coming out of here not in the right order, like this one right here. Try to put it in order, and then that will hold throughout the piece. All right. So each of these triads, consider it as one strand. If you have trouble with this part, look up 6-stranded braiding and it'll show you how to do it. So you're going to start on one side and go over and under. You will save yourself a lot of time if, as you're doing this, you kind of flatten these out. All right, because the temptation is for them to all squish together. It's a lot prettier if they're flat, so just practice that. So go over and under from one side, then from the other, take a whole triad and go under, over, and under. All right. Again, try to flatten them out as best you can. Then you're going to start the whole process over. So the one that's farthest to the side that you started with, go over, the one directly next to it, over and under. Then from the other side, you're going to go under and then over and then under. Now, everyone has different preference in terms of how tight they want this to be, but as you go along, feel free to tighten it. It'll save you a lot of time later. Just pull these taut as best you can. Right? And you see now they've sort of flattened out, they've gone into the right place, even though they weren't all in the right place at the beginning. Let me show you one more time the pattern. You take one side, you go over the triad directly next to it, under the next one. Then you're going to go to the other side. You're going to go under the first one, over the next one, and then under the next one. One suggestion I have is that you do about 6 inches of this, tied to a ring or not, and then undo it. So do about 6 inches of braid, tie a knot or somehow mark the end here, and then undo it and measure how much cord you needed for 6 inches of braid. And then you, depending on how long you want your pattern to be, how long you want the belt to be, you can calculate out how much paracord you need. That's really the best way, again, just because people use different tightness to their braids. I highly recommend doing a tiny test of just sort of 6 inches, see how using the tightness that you're going to use, and then calculate out how much paracord you need from there. When you get to the end of your belt, and it should easily wrap around the person that you are making this for with additional space so that they can loop it around their belt loop. Find the 2 longest pieces of each color that you have remaining. They don't have to be connected to each other, but find the two longest pieces. Gather the end of your belt together as best you can without sacrificing the integrity of the braid. You're going to take these two pieces, make a 4 shape. All right, so you see how it's a 4, depending on your angle on the screen, but it goes like this, and here's the stem of the 4. All right, so basically make a side loop with one end over the top of your belt. You're going to go behind the belt and up through that loop. And tie that very, very tightly. Okay. Then you're going to do that exact same knot again. So make a 4, or just sort of a U that goes across the top of your belt. Go under your belt with those same 2 pieces. Back up and through that U, and then tie it tight. Now, when you do this, make sure that you're maintaining an every other color pattern, because it's going to look really cool at the end. Again, make a U, go behind and up through it. See, that time it didn't quite work in terms of color, so I'm going to flip it like that before I tie it tight so that it maintains the color pattern. I'm going to flip my belt over here because this will start to spiral around your belt. And the final presentation of this is really, really cool looking. So it's worth the extra time to do this, in my opinion. All right. And again, just make sure that it stays in that pattern. And when you're done, it's going to look something like this. All right. I would recommend leaving, I don't know, a few inches just for a tail. It looks pretty fun. It's a stylistic thing. On this one, I left about 6 inches, but it's up to you how you want to do that. But at the end, what you'll have is you'll have this nice little spiral, and then you'll have this out to the side and the rest of the strings that you'll cut off in a minute and probably burn so that they don't fray. One of the nice things about using paracord is that you can go from ends like this to ends like this very easily. Now you can use a lighter or other flame source, but I like the hands-free option of a stove. Cut any excess fuzz at the end. Heat it up. Cool it off with a paper towel, and you're good to go. Instead of having this just out to the side, what I recommend is that instead of doing your regular 4, you take it behind your belt like that, and then up, down, and through. All right, so let me do that one more time. So instead of doing your regular 4, like you're used to, you're going to actually do a U under the belt. All right, you're going to come from behind your belt, go up around this top piece here, go down and through. Okay, what that does, and then tighten it. That final knot just seals it off and also allows all of your little tips here to be in the same place.